The stars looked different from here. Jiwan pressed his hand against the cold window of the transport ship and watched the massive space station grow larger. He had seen many things in his 10 years as a pilot, but nothing like this. The Galactic Concordate station was bigger than any city on Earth. Lights flickered across its surface like 1,000 fireflies, dancing in the darkness of space. "Stop, staring like a tourist," Hyunwoo said from behind him. His best friend was checking his uniform for the 3rd time. "We're representing Earth, remember? Try to look professional." Jiwan smiled but didn't turn away from the window. Hard not to stare. This place holds representatives from 60 different species. 60. And we're the newest ones. Newest and smallest, Hyunwoo added. "Did you see the size of those Vrakthian delegates? They're like walking mountains." The transport ship docked with a soft thud. Jiwan took a deep breath and straightened his uniform. The dark blue fabric bore Earth symbol on the shoulder. A simple planet with a single moon. Nothing fancy compared to the elaborate designs other species wore. But it was theirs. The airlock opened and they stepped into the station. The corridor stretched ahead of them, wide enough to fit 3 Earth buses side by side. Aliens of every shape and size moved through the space. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others floated or crawled or moved in ways Jiwan couldn't quite understand. "This way," said Mira, their diplomatic aide. She was young but sharp, always knowing exactly where to go and what to say. "The opening ceremony starts in 2 hours. We need to register first." The registration hall was chaos. Delegates argued in dozens of languages. Translation devices chirped and buzzed, trying to keep up. Jiwan waited in line behind a creature that looked like a crystal tree. It hummed softly, leaves chiming like bells. "Name and planet?" asked the registrar, a gray-skinned being with 4 arms. "Jiwan, Earth, here for the Concordate Games." All 4 hands stopped typing. 4 eyes looked up at him. "Earth, the humans? You're actually competing?" "Yes." "Good luck with that." The registrar didn't sound mean, just doubtful, like someone watching a child try to lift a car. Jiwan had heard that tone before. Earth had joined the Galactic Concordate only 15 years ago. In cosmic terms, they were infants. Most species had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. They had technologies Earth couldn't dream of. Strength humans couldn't match. Speed, intelligence, powers that seemed like magic. But humans had something else. Jiwan wasn't sure what to call it. Stubbornness, maybe, or hope. The refusal to give up even when everything said they should. The opening ceremony took place in the grand arena. Jiwan stood with the small human delegation, feeling very aware of how few they were. 12 humans among thousands of delegates. The arena could hold 50,000 beings. It was maybe half full, but that was still more aliens than Jiwan had ever seen in one place. "Welcome," boomed a voice that shook the air itself. "Welcome to the Concordate Games. For 10,000 cycles we have gathered here to test skill, strength, and honor. May the best prevail." The crowd erupted in cheers, roars, musical tones, and sounds that had no Earth equivalent. Jiwan watched as each species was announced. The Vrakthians, towering and powerful, made the ground shake when they marched out. The Lissari, floating beings of pure energy, dimmed and brightened in what might have been applause. The Cathari came last. Jiwan had seen images of the Cathari before, but pictures didn't capture their presence. They stood tall, nearly 7 feet on average. Their skin held a purple hue that shifted in the light. They wore armor that looked both ancient and advanced, covered in symbols Jiwan couldn't read. But what struck him most was how they moved. Every step was precise. Every gesture controlled. They carried themselves like warriors who had never known defeat. "The Cathari have won the games 3 times in a row," Hyunwoo whispered. "People say they're unbeatable." Among the Cathari delegation, one figure stood out. She walked at the front, head high, eyes scanning the arena with cold assessment. Her armor bore more symbols than the others. Some kind of rank, Jiwan guessed. She was beautiful in a way that was both alien and striking. Sharp features, eyes that glowed slightly amber, movements that spoke of deadly grace. "That's Valara," Mira said quietly. "Cathari ambassador. Also their top warrior before she took the diplomatic position. They say she's never lost a fight." Valara's gaze swept across the arena and for just a moment stopped on the human delegation. Jiwan felt the weight of that look. She wasn't glaring or dismissive like some others had been. She was analyzing, like a scientist studying an interesting specimen. Then her eyes moved on and the moment passed. And finally, the announcer continued, we welcome our newest members. From Earth, the humans. The arena went quiet, not hostile, just curious. Jiwan and the other humans stepped forward. The silence felt heavy. Then someone in the crowd made a sound that might have been a laugh. Others joined in. Not cruel laughter, but the kind people make when they see something unlikely. Humans competing in the games, someone said loud enough to hear. This should be entertaining. Jiwan felt his jaw tighten. Chunwoo touched his arm in warning, but Jiwan didn't react. Let them laugh. Words were just air. Results were what mattered. The ceremony continued with explanations of the rules. The games would last 2 weeks. Challenges would test combat, strategy, endurance, and problem-solving. Each species would send their best. Winners brought honor to their people, and according to ancient tradition, the victor could claim a reward from the losing species. Usually that means trade agreements or technology sharing, Mira explained later as they headed to their quarters. Sometimes it's symbolic items. The Kthari are known for offering mates from their noble families to victors they respect. It's a huge honor in their culture. Mates? Hyunwoo raised an eyebrow. Like marriage? More or less. It's complicated. Their culture puts great value on binding alliances through family ties. Mira paused at a door. Not that it matters. No human has ever come close to winning. Yet, Jiwon said. Mira smiled. Yet, that night Jiwon couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about that look from Valara. The way she had studied them, studied him. Most aliens looked at humans with amusement or pity, but her gaze had been different, interested, calculating. Tomorrow the games would begin. Tomorrow he would show them all what humans could do, not through superior strength or ancient technology, but through the one thing humans had in abundance, the will to try anyway. He looked out the window of his small room at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there was Earth. Home. The planet that had survived wars and disasters and had still reached for the sky. The planet that taught its children one simple lesson: never give up. Jiwon smiled and finally closed his eyes. The games were about to begin. The first challenge took place in a massive arena that could change its shape. Right now it looked like a forest, but Jiwon knew the trees and rocks were all artificial. Advanced technology made them feel real, smell real, even bleed sap when cut. 50 contestants stood at the starting line. Each represented their species' best warrior. Jiwon looked small compared to most of them. The Vrakthian beside him stood nearly 9 feet tall with arms thick as tree trunks. On his other side, a Lysari floated in its energy form, crackling with power. The rules are simple, the announcer said. Reach the far side of the arena. First 10 to cross the line advance. Any method is acceptable. Lethal force is prohibited, but injuries are expected. Medical teams stand ready. Great, Hyunwoo muttered from the observation deck where non-competitors watched. Very reassuring, the signal blared. 50 warriors charged forward. Chaos erupted immediately. The Vrakthian knocked 3 competitors aside with one sweep of his massive arm. The Lysari shot forward like lightning, too fast to follow. Others used wings, teleportation, or simply brutal strength to push through. Jiwon ran. Not forward into the mess, but sideways along the edge of the arena. While others fought for the direct path, he looked for advantages. That was the first thing they taught in Earth's military. Don't fight the battle your enemy wants. Fight the one you can win. He spotted it quickly. A series of lower branches on the artificial trees. They weren't as strong as the trunks, but they might hold his weight. Most aliens were too heavy to try. But Jiwon only weighed 170 pounds. He jumped, caught a branch, and swung himself up. The tree swayed but held. He climbed quickly, years of training making his movements smooth. Below, warriors crashed through the undergrowth. Above, he moved through the canopy like a ghost. Halfway through, he heard a scream. Looking down, he saw a smaller alien trapped by 2 larger ones. They weren't killing it, but they were definitely making sure it couldn't advance. The rules said any method was acceptable. Jiwon hesitated for only a moment. Then he dropped from the trees. He landed behind the 2 bullies and swept the leg of one. As it fell, he rolled past the other and grabbed the trapped alien. Run! They ran together while the 2 larger warriors recovered. The alien Jiwon saved made a chittering sound. Its translation device sparked. Thank you, human, no problem. What's your name? Tisk is me. They reached a ravine. Other warriors were climbing down the steep walls. Jiwon looked at the distance. 30 feet across. 50 feet deep, can you jump that? He asked Tisk. No. Tisk climbs only. Hold on then. Jiwon picked up a long vine that hung from one of the trees. He tested its strength. It would have to do. Grab onto my back, Tisk climbed on. Jiwon backed up, ran forward, and swung across the ravine. They slammed into the far wall hard enough to knock the wind from his lungs, but they made it. As they climbed up, Jiwon heard a sound above. He looked up to see Valara standing at the ravine's edge. She had already crossed. Her armor didn't have a single scratch. She watched him climb with that same analytical expression from the ceremony. Their eyes met for a brief moment. Then she turned and continued forward. Jiwon pulled himself and Tisk over the edge. His arms burned. His shoulders ached. But he pushed forward. 9 warriors had already crossed the finish line. He could see it ahead. 30 yards, 10 out a massive shadow fell over him. The Vrakthian from earlier had caught up. Human, you humiliated me at the start. Now you pay. The creature was fast despite its size. Its fist came down like a hammer. Jiwon threw himself sideways, rolled, and kept running. The Vrakthian roared and charged after him. 5 yards from the finish line. The Vrakthian's footsteps shook the ground behind him. 3 yards. Jiwon could feel the alien's breath on his neck. 1 yard. Jiwon dove forward and crossed the line just as the Vrakthian's hand grabbed for him. He hit the ground hard and slid to a stop. 10th place, the announcer said. The human advances. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some cheered for the underdog. Others booed, upset their favorites hadn't made it. Jiwon just lay on the ground breathing hard, every muscle screaming. Get up, warrior. He looked up to find Valara standing over him. Up close, she was even more striking. Her eyes held depths he couldn't read. Intelligence, certainly, strength, but something else too. Curiosity, maybe. You fought well, she said. For a human. Jiwon took the hand she offered and stood. Her grip was iron. Thank you. For a Cathari, you were adequate. Her eyes widened slightly. Then, to his surprise, she made a sound that might have been a laugh. Adequate. No one has called me that in years. She studied him more closely. You think differently than others. I watched you in the trees. Most warriors choose strength. You chose strategy. Humans don't usually win with strength. No, she agreed. I suppose you don't. What do you win with? Stubbornness, mostly. This time she definitely laughed. The sound was strange but not unpleasant. I begin to understand why the Concordat accepted your species. You are interesting. Then she walked away, leaving Jiwon standing there confused. Hyunwoo ran up a moment later, slapping him on the back hard enough to hurt. You made it. By the skin of your teeth, but you made it. Did you see the look on that Vrakthian's face? Priceless. Did you see Valara talking to me? Half the arena saw. That's huge. She never talks to competitors during the games. People are already gossiping about it. The next few challenges passed in a blur. Combat trials where Jiwon used speed and tactics to overcome stronger opponents. Problem-solving tests where his human creativity found solutions others missed. An endurance challenge where he simply refused to quit, even when his body begged him to stop. After each event, he noticed Valara watching. Not obviously. She was too professional for that. But he felt her gaze. And sometimes when he looked back, she didn't look away. 3 days into the games, Jiwon had advanced further than any human in history. People stopped laughing when Earth was mentioned. They started watching carefully instead. On the 4th day, Jiwon faced his biggest challenge yet. Single combat against the Lusari champion. The energy being moved so fast it was almost invisible. Jiwon lost. Badly. He woke up in the medical center with burns covering his arms and a ringing in his ears. Valara stood beside his bed. You're awake? She said. It wasn't a question. Unfortunately, every word hurt. Did you come to gloat? I came to understand. She sat in the chair beside the bed. It was a strangely human gesture. Most aliens didn't sit. You lost today, badly. Yet when they asked if you would withdraw, you said no. Why? You know you cannot win the games. Jiwon thought about his answer. Maybe not, but I can try. My people. We've always been the small ones. The weak ones. Every step forward was a fight. Earth's history is just humans trying things that should be impossible, and sometimes succeeding. I can't give up because that's not what we do. Valara was quiet for a long moment. The Cathari value strength above all things. We are taught that only the powerful deserve respect. But watching you these past days has made me question that teaching. You have a different kind of strength. The strength to continue when all logic says to stop? Is that a compliment? It is an observation, but yes. Also a compliment. She stood to leave. At the door she paused. Tomorrow is the team challenge. You will need to work with warriors from other species. Many will not want to work with a human. But if you are placed on my team, I will not object. Then she was gone, leaving Jiwon to wonder what had just happened. The most feared warrior in the Concordat had just said she wouldn't mind fighting beside a human. That was either a great honor or a huge problem. Possibly both. Outside his window, the stars continued their eternal dance. Jiwon closed his eyes and tried to rest. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. New chances to prove what humans could do. And maybe, just maybe, new chances to understand the mysterious Cathari ambassador, who seemed to see him as more than just a curiosity. The team challenge changed everything. Jiwon found himself assigned to a mixed group. 5 warriors from 5 different species. One was Valara. She nodded at him when he arrived, but said nothing. The others looked less pleased to have a human on their team. "This is a joke," growled Kravik, a Vrakthian warrior. "We are supposed to win with a human?"
The human has advanced further than you in individual challenges, Valara said calmly.
"Perhaps you should worry about your own performance." Kravik's face darkened, but he said nothing more. "You didn't argue with Valara. Not if you were smart. The challenge was simple in concept, brutal in execution. Teams would navigate a massive maze filled with traps, puzzles, and combat scenarios. The first team to reach the center and claim the victory token would win. All team members had to survive or the team was disqualified. "We split up," Kravik said. "Cover more ground." "Bad idea," Jiwon replied. "The traps are designed for groups to solve together. Alone, we're vulnerable." "The human speaks sense," said Valara. "We stay together." They entered the maze as a unit. Almost immediately, they hit the first trap. The floor ahead was covered in pressure plates. Step on the wrong one and spikes would shoot from the walls. Kravik started forward, but Valara stopped him. "Wait, the human, check it." Jiwon knelt by the plates. He wasn't stronger or smarter than his teammates, but humans had one advantage. They were good at seeing patterns. Thousands of years of survival had trained human brains to spot things others missed. "There," he said, pointing. "See how these plates are slightly lower? Those are the safe ones. The higher ones triggered traps. They crossed safely." Kravik grunted. Maybe approval. Maybe just acknowledgement. The maze grew more difficult. Combat robots attacked. Valara destroyed them with brutal efficiency. Walls shifted and changed. The team's tracker kept them oriented. Poison gas filled a chamber. Jiwon remembered his military training and guided them through, holding their breath. After 2 hours, they were in the lead. But they were also exhausted. "Rest," Valara ordered. 5 minutes, they collapsed against a wall. Jiwon's legs felt like rubber. Beside him, Valara checked her armor. A crack ran along her shoulder guard. "You are hurt," Jiwon said. "It is nothing. It's not nothing." "That crack goes deep. Next impact could break through." She looked at him with those intense amber eyes. "And what would you suggest, human?" Jiwon pulled off his belt. Military grade. Designed to hold equipment but also to serve as emergency gear. He wrapped it around her damaged armor, creating a brace. "Not perfect, but it'll hold." Valara tested it. "Clever. Your people are resourceful. We have to be." Something shifted in her expression, almost like respect. "I have fought beside many warriors. Most care only for their own glory. You think of the team first. That is rare. On Earth we have a saying, no one succeeds alone. The Cathari have a saying too, the strong carry the weak. That's not what I meant. I know. That is why it interests me." She stood, offering him a hand up. "Come, we have a challenge to win." They pushed forward. The center of the maze was close, but so were other teams. Jiwon could hear combat in nearby corridors. Whoever reached the center first would have to fight to keep it. The final chamber opened before them. In the center, on a raised platform, sat the victory token, a simple crystal sphere glowing with soft light. "Too easy," Jiwon said. "Agreed," Valara replied. "Trap? Definitely trap." As if on cue, the walls rumbled. From hidden doors, combat robots emerged. Not the simple ones from before. These were larger, armed with weapons that glowed with energy. "Defend the human," Kravik shouted. "I can fight," Jiwon shot back. "Then fight well." Chaos erupted. Valara moved like death itself. her blade cutting through robots with precision. Kravik used pure strength, tearing machines apart with his bare hands. Jiwon used his pistol, picking shots carefully. Energy was limited. Every shot had to count. A robot got past their defenses. It charged at Jiwon, weapon raised. He rolled, fired at its leg joint, and scrambled away. The robot stumbled but kept coming. Then Valara was there. Her blade took off the robot's head in one clean strike. "Stay close, human. Planning to?" They fought as a unit. When one warrior tired, others covered them. When someone was surrounded, the team broke through. It was brutal, exhausting. But slowly, they pushed toward the platform. Jiwon reached it first. His hand closed around the crystal sphere. "Got it!" The robots immediately shut down. Lights flashed. The announcer's voice boomed through the maze. Team 5 claims victory. The challenge is complete. They had won. Against all odds, with a human on the team, they had won. The maze walls lowered, revealing the arena beyond. Thousands of beings watched. The applause was deafening. Jiwon looked at his teammates. Kravik was bleeding from a dozen wounds. Others were burned or battered. But they were smiling, even Valara. She walked over to Jiwon and placed a hand on his shoulder. "A gesture of respect in Cathari culture. You fought well, Jiwon of Earth." It was the first time she had used his name. The games continued over the next week. Jiwon didn't win every challenge. He lost more than he won, but he never gave up, never stopped trying. And slowly other competitors began treating him differently, not as a curiosity or a joke, but as a warrior. The final challenge arrived on the last day. Single combat, champion versus champion. Jiwon had somehow advanced to face the Cathari champion. Not Valara. She was an ambassador now and couldn't compete for the title. But Mikon, a warrior who had trained beside her. The arena was packed. Every seat filled. This was what everyone had waited for. Human versus Cathari, the newest species against the reigning champions. "You have done well, human," Mikon said as they faced each other in the combat circle. "But this ends now. I will make it quick, for the honor you have shown." "Thanks. I think," the signal sounded. Mikon charged. The fight was brutal. Mikon was stronger, faster, and more experienced. Within the first minute, Jiwon was bleeding from 3 different cuts. His ribs ached. His vision blurred, but he didn't fall. Every time Mikon knocked him down, Jiwon got back up. The crowd went quiet, watching something they had never seen before. "A human refusing to quit against impossible odds. Stay down!" Mikon roared. "I do not wish to hurt you further." "Then you're going to be disappointed," Jiwon gasped. He was thinking. That's what humans did. They thought. Mikon was stronger but also bigger. Bigger meant more weight. More weight meant less agility. And there, in the way Mikon moved, was a pattern. A rhythm to his attacks. Jiwon waited for it. Watched for it. And when Mikon charged again, he was ready. He didn't try to block or dodge normally. Instead, he dropped flat and rolled between Mikon's legs. As he passed, he struck the back of Mikon's knee with all his strength. The Cathari warrior stumbled. For just a moment, he was off balance. Jiwon swept his legs completely. Mikon fell. Before the larger warrior could recover, Jiwon was on his back, arm around his throat in a chokehold. Not enough to kill. But enough. "Yield," Jiwon said through gritted teeth. "Please yield." For a long moment, nothing happened. The arena held its breath. Then Mikon tapped the ground. "The universal signal of surrender. I yield." The human wins. The arena exploded. Some cheered. Some booed. Many simply sat in shocked silence. A human had won the Concordate Games. It should have been impossible, but humans were good at impossible things. Jiwon released Mikon and helped him stand. The Cathari warrior looked at him with something like wonder. "How, I lost every physical advantage," Jiwon said. "So I had to win the mental one." That night there was a ceremony. Jiwon stood before the entire Concordate Council. His body ached everywhere, but he stood straight. "For your victory," the head counselor said, "you may claim a reward from the Cathari as per tradition." Valara stepped forward. She wore full ceremonial armor decorated with honors. Her face was carefully neutral. "The Cathari honor their debts. Name your reward, champion of Earth." Behind her, several Cathari noblewomen were brought forward. Beautiful, powerful, from honored bloodlines. They stood proudly, ready to fulfill their duty if chosen. Jiwon looked at them. Then he looked at Valara. Their eyes met. He thought about the past 2 weeks. The challenges. The conversations. The way she had fought beside him. The way she had seen him as an equal when no one else did. He thought about that laugh in the arena. The respect in her eyes. The hand on his shoulder. He made his choice. "I choose you," he said to Valara. "If you'll have me." The silence that followed was absolute. Then chaos erupted. Valara's face went completely blank. For 3 full seconds she simply stared at Jiwan. Around them the arena erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted in dozens of languages. The Cathari nobles behind Valara looked shocked. Some appeared offended. "The human cannot choose the ambassador," someone shouted from the Cathari delegation. "The tradition says any woman," another voice countered. "It does not exclude ambassadors. This is an outrage. This is unprecedented." The head counselor raised his hands for silence. It took several minutes to restore order. Valara still hadn't moved. Her amber eyes remained locked on Jiwan's face. "This is highly irregular," the counselor said carefully. "The Cathari ambassador holds a critical position. To remove her would create significant diplomatic complications." "The choice has been made," said Elder Davros, the most senior Cathari on the council. His face looked like ancient stone. "Our honor is at stake. The tradition is clear. The victor may choose any Cathari woman of noble birth. Valara is of the highest noble birth among us. But she is the ambassador. Then we will appoint a new ambassador." Davros turned to Valara. "The question is not whether the human can choose you. The question is whether you accept." Every eye in the arena turned to Valara. Jiwan suddenly realized what he had done. He had put her in an impossible position. Choose her career or fulfill her people's tradition. Either way, she would lose something. "I need time," Valara said. Her voice was steady, but Jiwan heard something underneath. Anger maybe, or hurt. "I request a recess of this council to consider my answer." "Granted," the counselor said. "We reconvene in 3 standard hours." The arena emptied quickly. Jiwan found himself surrounded by Hyunwoo, Mira, and several other Earth delegates. "What were you thinking?" Mira demanded. She looked ready to hit him. "You just created a diplomatic incident. Do you have any idea how delicate our relationship with the Cathari is?" "I know what I did. Then why did you do it?" Hyunwoo asked. He looked more curious than angry. There were other options. Beautiful options. Options that wouldn't cause political chaos. Jiwan rubbed his face. His ribs hurt. His head hurt worse. "Because I didn't want them. I wanted her. You barely know her." "I know enough." Jiwan thought about the past 2 weeks. She's the only one who saw me as an equal from the start. Not a curiosity. Not a pet project, an equal. She fought beside me. Laughed with me. And when she looked at me, I felt like she actually saw me. The real me. Not just the human representative or the underdog story. Me. Mira's expression softened slightly. "That's very romantic. Also very stupid. Those 2 things often go together. You need to fix this. Talk to her. Explain that you'll accept her refusal. Make this go away before it turns into a real crisis." But Jiwan wasn't sure he could do that. Because he meant what he said. He did choose Valara. Not to create chaos. Not to make a political statement. But because when he looked at his options, she was the only one he wanted to know better. 2 hours later, a Cathari guard appeared at his door. "The ambassador will see you. Follow." Jiwan followed through the station's winding corridors. They passed gardens where alien plants grew in carefully controlled environments. Observation decks where stars blazed through massive windows. Finally, they reached a door that opened into a simple room. Valara stood by the window looking out at space. She had removed her ceremonial armor. Now she wore simple clothes. She looked smaller somehow. More vulnerable. "You wanted to see me," she once said. "I wanted to understand." She didn't turn around. Why me? Truly. There were others. Younger. More beautiful by Cathari standards. Women whose only purpose would have been to serve as your mate. "I am an ambassador. My life is dedicated to my people's interests. Choosing me makes no sense." Jiwan stepped closer. "It makes sense to me. Those other women, I don't know them. Don't know what they think or feel or care about. But you? I've watched you these past weeks, seen how you think, how you fight, how you treat others with respect even when you don't have to. You're strong but not cruel, powerful but not arrogant. And when you smile, which isn't often, it's genuine. That matters to me." Valara finally turned. Her eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. Jiwan didn't know if Cathari could cry. You realize what you have done? Her voice held an edge. I must choose between my duty and my honor. If I refuse you, the Kthari honor is questioned. Other species will say we do not keep our word. If I accept, I lose everything I have built. My position, my influence, my purpose. I'm sorry. I didn't think about those consequences. I should have. No, you should have. She stepped closer, her expression fierce. But I also understand why you did not. Humans think with their hearts as much as their minds. It is one of your species' defining traits. Foolish, but also compelling. So what will you do? Valara looked at him for a long moment. I do not know. Part of me is angry. You put me in this position without asking, without considering the cost to me. But another part is curious. In all my years, no warrior has chosen me for myself. They see the ambassador, the fighter, the symbol. You looked past all that. I saw it all. I just also saw the person underneath. And what person is that? Someone who is tired of being what everyone needs her to be. Someone who wants something for herself even if she is afraid to admit it. Valara's breath caught. For just a moment, her mask cracked completely. Jiwan saw loneliness there. Years of it. The isolation that came from being too important to have personal desires. You see too much, human. Maybe. Or maybe I just recognize it because I feel the same way. I'm not just Earth's representative. I'm Jiwan. I grew up in Seoul. I lost my family in the war. I joined the military because it was all I had left. I became good at fighting because stopping meant remembering. And for the first time in years, when I look at you, I feel like I could be something more than a soldier. The silence stretched between them. Not uncomfortable, just heavy with possibility. I need time, Valara said finally. This decision cannot be made quickly. I understand. And if you choose to refuse, I will accept it. I will tell the council it was my mistake. Take the blame. That would damage Earth's reputation. I know, but it's better than forcing you into something you don't want. Valara studied him again with that intense gaze. You would sacrifice your people standing for my freedom to choose? Yes, why? Because you matter more. Something changed in her eyes then, softened. She reached out and touched his face gently. Her hand was warm, strong. You are either the bravest human I have met, she said softly, or the most foolish. Perhaps both. Definitely both, she almost smiled. I will give you my answer at the council. But know this, Jiwan of Earth. Whatever I decide, it will be my choice, not duty, not honor. Mine. That's all I ask. She withdrew her hand and walked to the door. Before leaving, she paused. You asked me earlier what person I am underneath everything. I think I would like to find out. Then she was gone. Jiwan stood alone in the room, his heart pounding. He had no idea what she would choose. But for the first time, he felt like whatever happened would be honest. Real. Outside the window, the stars continued their eternal dance. In 3 hours, the council would reconvene. Valara would give her answer. And Jiwan would face the consequences of his choice. He just hoped those consequences wouldn't destroy what little chance they had. Hyunwoo found him an hour later, still standing by the window. They're placing bets in the delegate lounge, his friend said. 3-1 she refuses. But there's a surprising number betting she accepts. What do you think? Hyunwoo shrugged. I think you did something crazy. But I also think she looked at you differently during the games. Like you mattered. So who knows? Maybe crazy is exactly what she needs. Great, no pressure then. Oh, tons of pressure. The entire Concordat is watching. But hey, when has that ever stopped you? Jiwon smiled despite his nerves. Never. That's my friend. Come on. We have an answer to hear. They walked together toward the council chamber, toward whatever future waited there. Jiwon's hands were steady, but his heart raced. In minutes, he would learn if he had found something real or destroyed any chance of it. Either way, at least he tried. That was very human of him. The council chamber filled slowly. Delegates took their seats in careful order, based on species hierarchy and diplomatic importance. Jiwon sat with the Earth delegation, trying not to show his nerves. Hyunwoo gave him an encouraging nod. Mira looked worried. The Kthari delegation entered last. Valara walked at their front, her face completely neutral. She wore her ambassador robes deep purple with silver markings. She looked every inch the powerful diplomat. Nothing in her expression gave away what she would say. The council recognizes Ambassador Valara of the Kthari, the head counselor said. You have had time to consider the champion's choice. What is your answer? Vilara stood. The entire chamber went silent. You could have heard a pin drop in the vastness of space outside. I have considered carefully, she said. Her voice carried through the chamber without effort. This situation is unprecedented, inconvenient, problematic for my people's diplomatic interests. Many have counseled me to refuse for the good of the Cathari. Jiwon's heart sank. This was it, the refusal. He prepared himself to stand and take the blame. However, Vilara continued, the Cathari are not a people who break our word when it becomes inconvenient. Tradition exists for a reason. Honor exists for a reason. And the reason is this: to test whether our principles matter more than our comfort. She turned to look directly at Jiwon. Their eyes met across the chamber. I accept, she said clearly. Jiwon of Earth has chosen me, and I choose to honor that decision. I will step down as ambassador effective immediately and fulfill the terms of our tradition. The chamber erupted. Some delegates cheered. Others shouted protests. The Cathari delegation looked divided, some nodding approval while others appeared horrified. This is unacceptable. A Cathari general stood, his armor covered in military honors. His name was Vraka, and his face held pure fury. You would abandon your people for a human? A species barely able to reach the stars? I abandon nothing, Vilara replied calmly. I fulfill our people's sacred tradition. Or do you suggest we should dishonor ourselves when honor becomes difficult? I suggest you think of duty before personal desire. I have thought of nothing but duty for 20 years. Perhaps it is time I thought of something else. The argument continued, but Jiwon barely heard it. She had accepted. Vilara had chosen him. Or at least she had chosen to honor his choice. He wasn't sure which, but right now it didn't matter. The council session ended in chaos. Procedures for transferring the ambassador position would take days. During that time, Vilara would remain in her role but begin transitioning out. You need to leave, Mira told Jiwon afterwards. There are too many angry people here. Some Cathari see this as humiliation. Others are furious about losing their best diplomat. Until things calm down, you should stay in the human quarters. What about Vilara? She has her own protection. Focus on keeping yourself safe. Jiwon didn't like it, but he listened. That night he stayed in his room with Hyunwoo on watch. The station felt different now, tense, like something was building just beneath the surface. 3 days passed. Jiwon caught glimpses of Vilara in official meetings, but they didn't speak privately. Too many eyes watching. Too many people waiting to see what would happen next. On the 4th night, there was a diplomatic reception, a formal event where all delegates gathered to celebrate the end of the games. Jiwon had to attend. Earth couldn't afford to look weak by hiding. The reception hall was massive, filled with beings from across the Concordat. Music played, though Jiwon didn't recognize the instruments. Food from 100 worlds covered long tables. He stuck close to the human delegation, nursing a drink that tasted like citrus and lightning. Vilara entered late. She wore a simple gown now, not her ambassador robes. The transition was official. She was no longer the Cathari ambassador. Just Vilara, their eyes met across the room. She started toward him. She never made it. The lights went out. Emergency systems kicked in a second later, bathing the hall in red light. Screams echoed. Bodies crashed together in the darkness. And through it all, Jiwon heard a sound he knew too well. Weapons charging. Get down, he shouted, tackling Hyunwoo behind a table. Energy blasts lit up the room. Jiwon caught glimpses of armored figures moving through the crowd. They were targeting specific people, and one of those people was Vilara. He saw her across the room, surrounded by 3 attackers. She fought brilliantly, her combat training evident in every move. But she was unarmed and outnumbered. Jiwon didn't think. He ran. He hit the first attacker from behind, using momentum to knock them off balance. The second turned to face him, and Jiwon recognized the armor markings. Cathari military, Vraka sent you, Jiwon said. It wasn't a question. The general corrects a mistake, the soldier replied. Both of you die tonight. The soldier raised his weapon. Jiwon dove sideways as an energy blast scorched the floor where he had stood. He rolled, came up, and realized he had no weapon, no armor, nothing but his training and desperation. The soldier advanced. Jiwon backed up, mind racing. How do you fight an armored enemy when you have nothing? You don't fight the armor. You fight the person inside. As the soldier fired again, Jiwon grabbed a serving tray and used it as a shield. The blast hit the tray, superheating it instantly. G1 threw the burning metal at the soldier's face. The warrior flinched. Just for a second, it was enough. G1 closed the distance and struck at the joints in the armor. Knee first. The soldier stumbled. Then the elbow, knocking the weapon loose. Finally, the helmet clasp. The helmet came off. G1 grabbed the soldier's own weapon and pointed it at them. Stay down. Behind him, Valara had defeated her attackers. She held one in a chokehold while the other two lay unconscious. Their eyes met. She was breathing hard, bleeding from a cut on her arm, but she was smiling. You came for me, she said. Of course I did. Security forces arrived moments later. They secured the attackers and began evacuating the hall. G1 and Valara were taken to a secure room for questioning. As they sat side by side giving statements, G1 noticed Valara's hand was shaking slightly. Are you okay? He asked quietly. I am unharmed. That's not what I asked. She looked at him with those intense amber eyes. I have faced death many times. But tonight I felt fear. Not for myself, for you. You should not have come for me. You had no weapon, no armor. They would have killed you, probably. But I couldn't just watch. Why not? It would have been the logical choice. I don't always do the logical thing. No, she said softly. You do not. It is maddening. Also, admirable. Later, after the questioning ended, they learned the full truth. General Vraka had orchestrated the attack with help from several other species who feared humanity's growing influence. The plan was to kill both G1 and Valara, making it look like an accident or a random attack. They wanted to break the union before it began, Elder Davros explained. He looked older now, tired. Vraka believed your choice humiliated the Cathari. He could not accept it. What happens to him? G1 asked. He will face trial. As will his co-conspirators. Their actions violated every law we hold sacred. Davros turned to Valara. I am sorry, child. I know you served with Vraka once. This must be difficult. He chose his path, Valara said. I chose mine. We must both face the consequences. But that night, alone in her temporary quarters, Valara wasn't as strong as she appeared. G1 found her sitting by the window staring at nothing. You should rest, he said. I cannot. Every time I close my eyes, I see you running toward me. Unarmed, unprotected, foolish. Yeah, I've been told I'm foolish. This is not a joke. G1. She stood, her emotions finally breaking through. You could have died. For what? For me? I am not worth your life. I disagree. You barely know me. I know enough. He stepped closer. I know you value honor over convenience. I know you fight for what's right even when it costs you. I know you see people for who they are, not what they are. And I know that when I thought I might lose you tonight, nothing else mattered. Not politics, not logic, just the thought that I might never get to know you better. Valara's breath caught. Tears finally fell, glowing slightly in the dim light. You are the most infuriating human I have ever met. I'll take that as a compliment. You should not. But she was almost smiling through the tears. Why did you choose me, G1? Truly, tell me the real reason. He thought about his answer carefully. Because when you looked at me, I felt seen. Really seen. Not as a representative or a symbol or a story. As myself. And when I looked at you, I saw the same thing. Someone who is tired of being alone in a crowd. Someone who wants to be known for who they are. Not what they represent. Maybe I am foolish. But I wanted the chance to know that person. The real you. Valara reached out and took his hand. Her grip was strong, warm, real. I do not know if this can work, she said quietly. We are from different worlds. Different species. Everything about this is complicated. Most things worth having are. You really believe that? I do. She studied their joined hands. I have never done this before. Chosen something for myself. It is terrifying. Yeah. But maybe that means it matters. Valara looked up at him, and for the first time her expression held no masks. Just vulnerability, hope, fear, all mixed together. Stay with me tonight? She asked. Not for any reason except I do not want to be alone, of course. They sat together by the window, watching the stars, hands intertwined. Tomorrow would bring trials, questions, and complications. But the trial began 2 weeks after the attack. The Concordat Council transformed the Grand Arena into a courtroom. Every species sent representatives to watch. This wasn't just about punishing conspirators anymore. It was about what the union between G1 and Valara represented. General Vraka stood in chains, proud even in defeat. Beside him were 3 other co-conspirators from different species.
One was Counselor Threx, the delegate who had mocked humanity from the beginning.
Their expressions showed no remorse. "You are charged with attempted murder, conspiracy, and violation of sacred tradition," Elder Davros announced. "How do you plead?" "Guilty," Vraka said. "And I would do it again. The Kthari are a warrior race. We are not meant to bind ourselves to weak species. This union is an insult to our ancestors." Murmurs spread through the arena. Jiwan sat in the witness section with Valara beside him. He felt her tense at Vraka's words. "The accused admits guilt," Davros said. "But before sentencing, this council must address a larger question. The defense claims Ambassador Valara abandoned her duty by accepting the human's choice. They claim she should be held accountable for creating this situation." Jiwan stood immediately. "That's insane. She did nothing wrong." "Sit down, human," the head counselor said. "You will have your chance to speak." The prosecution began their case. A Kthari lawyer, his armor polished to perfection, addressed the council. "Valara was our finest ambassador. She represented Kthari interests with skill and dedication. But when faced with an inconvenient tradition, she chose personal desire over duty. Her choice has created division among our people. It has weakened our diplomatic position, and it has encouraged other species to question our strength." The words hit like blows. Jiwan watched Valara's face. She remained calm, but he saw the pain in her eyes. Furthermore, the prosecutor continued, her actions the night of the attack revealed her true priorities. She fought to save the human instead of protecting Kthari interests. She has become compromised, unfit for the role she once held. "She saved my life," Jiwan said loudly. "Is that supposed to be a crime?" "Order," the head counselor shouted. "The human will restrain himself or be removed." Yunwu pulled Jiwan back down. "Let the process work," he whispered. "You'll get your turn." The prosecution called witnesses. Kthari officials who testified about the diplomatic complications. Other ambassadors who expressed concern about the precedent. Each one painted Valara's choice as a betrayal. Finally, it was the defense's turn. Elder Davros stood. "I speak for Valara," he said. "Not as a prosecutor, but as a witness to our people's true values. The Kthari prize honor above all things. Our tradition says the victor of the games may choose any woman of noble birth as their reward. Valara is of the highest noble birth. The human won fairly. He made his choice according to our laws. Valara honored that choice. Tell me, assembled council, which action shows honor? Keeping a promise when it is convenient? Or keeping it when it costs you everything?" Silence fell over the arena. Davros let it stretch. "Some say Valara abandoned duty," he continued. "I say she fulfilled the highest duty. To show that our word matters more than our comfort. If we make exceptions when tradition becomes inconvenient, what value does tradition have? What value does our honor have?" "But she is compromised now," someone shouted. "She cares more for the human than for her people." "I will let her answer that herself." "Valara, approach the council." Valara stood and walked to the center of the arena. Every eye watched her. She looked small against the vastness of the space, but she held her head high. "I served the Kthari people for 20 years, she said. Her voice carried through the arena without amplification. "I negotiated treaties, prevented wars, represented our interests on 100 worlds. I did this because I believed in our values, honor, strength, integrity. But somewhere along the way, I forgot that those values must also apply to myself." She turned slowly, making eye contact with different sections of the crowd. "When Jiwan chose me, my first instinct was anger. How dare he create this situation? How dare he force me to choose? But then I realized he did not force anything. He simply saw me as more than my position. He offered me something I had not had in years. A choice that was mine alone. You chose personal happiness over duty. Someone accused? No. I chose to show that duty includes being honest. For years I told other species that Kthari keep their word, that our traditions mean something. When faced with proving that, I could not fail. To refuse would have been to admit that our honor only exists when it is convenient. That would have done more damage to Kthari reputation than any personal choice ever could." Valara's voice grew stronger. "And yes, I care for Jiwan. I will not apologize for that. He has shown me courage, creativity, and a kind of strength we Kthari often overlook. The strength to be vulnerable, to choose connection over safety, To fight not because you can win, but because it is right. These are not weaknesses. They are why humanity has succeeded despite every disadvantage. She looked directly at Vraka. General, you claim this union weakens us. I say you are wrong. It shows we can adapt, that we can honor our traditions while embracing new possibilities. Strength is not just physical power. It is also the courage to change when change is needed. Beautiful words, the prosecutor said, but they do not address the core issue. You abandoned your post to save one human. What if that had been a choice between him and your people? Which would you choose? The arena went silent. Everyone wanted to hear this answer. Valara looked at G1. Their eyes met across the distance. Then she turned back to the council. If I had to choose between G1 and my people, I would choose my people. Because that is duty. But the night of the attack, that was not the choice. The choice was whether to let assassins murder someone under the protection of concordant law, whether to allow criminals to succeed through violence. I chose to stop them. Any Cathari warrior would have done the same. That G1 was one of the targets does not change the principle. She paused, then added quietly, but I will not lie. Knowing it was him in danger made me fight harder. Is that wrong? I do not know. But it is honest. Elder Davros nodded. The council recognizes the witness. We will now hear from G1 of Earth. G1 stood and walked to the center. His legs felt shaky, but he forced them steady. This was it. His chance to make this right. I want to start by saying I am sorry, he said. Not for choosing Valara. I will never be sorry for that. But for not considering the consequences to her. I put her in an impossible position. If anyone should be held accountable, it is me. The human admits guilt, the prosecutor said quickly. I admit to being thoughtless, G1 corrected. Not to any crime. I followed Cathari tradition exactly as written. I won the games fairly. I made my choice according to the rules. If the rules create problems, maybe the rules need to change, but you cannot punish someone for following them. He looked around the arena, meeting as many eyes as he could. Every species here has traditions that sometimes conflict with practical needs. You keep them anyway because they represent something important. The Cathari tradition of offering mates to victors represents respect for strength and courage. By honoring my choice, Valara showed that respect still means something. She proved Cathari honor is real, not just convenient words. Yet your species benefits from this, Counselor Threx said from his chains. You gain status through this union.
Was that your plan all along?
If I wanted status, I would have chosen one of the other women offered. Ones who would have caused no political problems. I chose Valara because I wanted to know her. That is all. That is everything. The prosecutor stood again. Romantic words from a romantic species. But they do not change reality. This union has created division, conflict, and now violence. Perhaps it would be better to annul it. To set both parties free and restore order. No, Valara said immediately. I chose to honor G1's selection. That choice is made. I will not unmake it because it became difficult. Even if continuing costs you more, even then, G1 felt something break open in his chest. She had just publicly confirmed her choice. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Elder Davros raised his hand for silence. This council has heard enough. We will deliberate and announce our judgment. Court is dismissed until tomorrow. That night, G1 and Valara sat together in the human quarters. Neither spoke for a long time. Finally, Valara broke the silence. Thank you for what you said today. I meant every word. I know. That is why it matters. She turned to face him. Whatever the council decides tomorrow, I want you to know something. I do not regret my choice. These past weeks have been chaotic and difficult and terrifying, but they have also reminded me what it feels like to be alive, to choose something for myself, to feel connected to another person. You gave me that. No matter what happens, thank you. You are not getting rid of me that easily, Juwan said. Whatever the council decides, we face it together. Together, Valara repeated. She smiled. I am still learning what that word means. Me too. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars outside the window. Tomorrow would bring the council's judgment. But tonight they had each other. It would have to be enough. The council chamber was packed. Not just delegates this time, but beings from across the Concordat who had come to hear the judgment. The decision would set precedent for generations. It would define how species interacted, how traditions were honored, and what unity truly meant. Jiwan sat with Valara, their hands joined. Neither showed their nervousness, but Jiwan could feel her grip tighten when Elder Davros stood to deliver the council's decision. "The council has deliberated," Davros said. His voice was heavy with the weight of history. "We have considered testimony, evidence, and the core principles that bind our concordat together. We have reached our judgment." The arena fell silent. You could hear breath itself in that moment. General Vraka and his co-conspirators are found guilty of all charges: for attempting murder under protection of concordat law, for conspiracy to undermine sacred tradition, and for bringing dishonor to their species through cowardice. They are sentenced to permanent exile. They will be stripped of all rank and sent to the outer territories, never to return. Vraka's face remained proud, but Jiwan saw the flash of pain. For a warrior, exile was worse than death. As for the matter of Valara and Jiwan, Davros continued, "The council finds no wrongdoing. Valara acted with honor in accepting a choice made according to Cathari law. She did not abandon her duty. She fulfilled it in the truest sense. Her actions the night of the attack demonstrated courage and adherence to justice, not compromise." Relief flooded through Jiwan. Valara's hand trembled slightly in his. "Furthermore," Davros said, "the council recognizes this union as legitimate and binding. It will stand as a symbol of what the concordat represents: unity across differences, honor above convenience, the courage to embrace change while respecting tradition." The arena erupted. Some cheered. Some remained silent. But the decision was made. Official, permanent. However, Davros added, waiting for quiet, "Valara cannot return to her position as ambassador. Not because she is unfit, but because her new status would create conflicts of interest. Instead, the council offers a new position: cultural liaison between species, a role that uses her skills while acknowledging her changed circumstances." Valara stood. "I accept." With gratitude, Davros smiled. It was rare to see emotion from the ancient Cathari. "Then this matter is settled. May this union bring wisdom to us all." The chamber emptied slowly. Delegates came to offer congratulations or at least acknowledgement. The Cathari delegation was divided, some warm and others cold, but all respectful. Yunwu practically tackled Jiwan when they finally escaped to a quiet corridor. "You did it. You crazy, insane, wonderful fool. You actually did it." "We did it," Jiwan corrected, looking at Valara. "Yes," she agreed. "We did." Mira appeared, looking exhausted but pleased. "The media coverage is already spreading. Dozens of news services want interviews. This is going to change how people see human-alien relations." "Later," Jiwan said. "Right now I just want to breathe." They retreated to the observation deck, a public space that was usually crowded but happened to be empty at that moment. Jiwan and Valara stood at the window, watching ships come and go from the station. "What happens now?" Valara asked. "I don't know. I haven't thought past today. Neither have I. It is strange. I always planned everything. Every move calculated years in advance. But now I have no plan. Only possibilities. Is that scary?" "Terrifying," she admitted. "Also exciting," Jiwan laughed. "Yeah, that sounds about right." They stood in comfortable silence for a while. Then Valara spoke again, her voice thoughtful. "I have been thinking about what you said, about feeling seen. I did not understand it at first, but I do now. All my life, people saw the ambassador, the warrior, the symbol. You looked past all that and saw just me. Valara. Not a position or a title. A person who likes sunrise views from observation decks. Who hums while working, though she tries to hide it. Who is terrible at relaxing because she always feels she should be doing something productive. You hum?" Jiwan smiled. "I didn't know that, because I hide it. But with you I find I want to hide less. That is new, uncomfortable, but also good. I feel the same way. I have been a soldier for so long I forgot how to be anything else. But when I am with you I remember there is more to life than duty." Valara turned to face him fully. "I cannot promise this will be easy. My people will watch us, judge us. Every mistake will be magnified. Every success questioned. There will be those who want us to fail. I know. And yet you still choose this? Choose me?" "Every day," Jiwan said. "For as long as you will have me." She reached up and touched his face gently. It was the first truly affectionate gesture she had made publicly. "Then I choose you as well. Every day." Starting now, they kissed. Simple, sweet and watched by a passing group of delegates who would definitely gossip about it later. But neither cared. This moment was theirs. 6 months passed, time that was both fast and slow, filled with change and adjustment. Valara moved into quarters on Earth's diplomatic station. She took her new position as cultural liaison seriously, working to build bridges between species. Her unique perspective as both Cathari and now bonded to a human gave her insights others lacked. Jiwan continued flying, but also began teaching. Combat instructors from multiple species wanted to learn human tactics. The games had proven that sometimes thinking differently mattered more than raw power. They learned each other slowly. Valara discovered Jiwan liked ancient Earth music and terrible puns. Jiwan learned Valara was actually quite funny when she relaxed, though her humor was so dry it took him weeks to recognize it. They argued about everything from strategy to food preferences. They made each other laugh. They frustrated each other. They learned to compromise. It was messy and complicated and wonderful. The Concordat watched their relationship with interest. Some species saw it as proof that unity was possible. Others remained skeptical. But slowly other cross-species relationships began forming. Not many, but enough to suggest change was happening. 1 year after the games, the Concordat held an anniversary celebration. Jiwan and Valara were invited as guests of honor. They almost refused, wanting privacy. But Davros convinced them to attend. "Your presence matters," he said. "You represent hope to many," so they went. The grand arena was decorated with symbols from every member species. Music played, blending styles from 100 cultures into something new and strange and beautiful. A young human pilot approached Jiwan nervously. "Excuse me, sir? I wanted to thank you. I am here as part of the next Earth delegation. Before the games, before you, humans were not taken seriously. Now we are. You changed that." "I didn't do it alone," Jiwan said, gesturing to Valara. "I know. That is part of what makes it matter. You showed that working together, being open to differences, makes us all stronger." After the pilot left, Valara smiled. "You have become a symbol. How does that feel?" "Weird. I just wanted to know you better. Saving humanity's reputation was just a bonus." "Just a bonus," Valara repeated, shaking her head. "You humans are ridiculous. You love it." "Unfortunately, I do." They found a quiet corner of the arena where they could watch the celebration without being the center of attention. Hyunwoo found them there eventually. "You two are terrible at parties," he said. "You are supposed to mingle." "We mingled enough," Jiwan replied. "How are things with you?" "Good, actually really good. I met someone, Alisari. Turns out dating an energy being is complicated but interesting." He grinned. "I blame you for making me think cross-species relationships could work." "Happy to help." As Hyunwoo wandered off, Valara leaned against Jiwan's shoulder. Another gesture that had become natural over time. "I have news," she said quietly. "Good news or bad news?" "Complicated news." "Good complicated, I think." She took his hand and placed it on her stomach. "Cathari pregnancies are different from human ones. Faster. But the medical scans are clear. I am carrying a child. Half human, half Cathari. The first of such a union." Jiwon froze. His mind went blank for a solid 5 seconds. Then it all hit at once. Joy, terror, wonder, panic, and something too big to name. "A child," he said. His voice cracked. "We are going to have a child." "Yes, are you pleased?" "Pleased." "Valara, I am terrified and thrilled and completely unprepared and so happy I can barely breathe. Is that normal?" She laughed, the sound free and genuine. "For humans. Probably. For Cathari? Unknown. For us. I think it is perfect." They held each other as the celebration continued around them. A human and a Cathari, about to become parents to something entirely new. It should have been impossible. But then humans were good at impossible things. The announcement came 2 weeks later. When word spread that Valara was pregnant, reactions varied wildly. Some celebrated. Some worried about the implications. Scientists wanted to study the pregnancy. Religious leaders debated what it meant, but Jiwan and Valara ignored most of it. They focused on preparing, on learning, on being ready for whatever came next. The baby was born 5 months later. Faster than a human pregnancy, but longer than a pure Cathari one. The birth was difficult, requiring special medical care that combined knowledge from both species. But when Jiwan held his daughter for the first time, all the fear vanished. She was perfect. Small, with skin that held a faint purple tint, eyes that would eventually be amber like her mother's but currently showed flecks of human brown.